Hello there. Today I'm taking a look at an Alsace Grand Cru wine. This is a Gewurztraminer from Domaine Weinbach from 2020 called Furstentum, or Furstentum is the name of the Grand Cru. Furstentum lies above another vineyard that the Weinbach estate has, Altenbourg, and its soils are a sort of a marly limestone with sandstone in there. There's slightly less sandstone in the Grand Cru, making the wine sort of slightly more austere and more long-lived in their style. The Weinbach estate, as I've mentioned in other videos, quite a historic estate, tracing its origins back to the 1600s when the buildings were part of a monastery owned by the Capuchin monks. The Falla family have run it now for several generations, with Catherine and her sons Theo and Eddie being in charge there. And the approach that they've used is that they're one of the early adopters of biodynamic and organic practices in the Alsace region. So they started working with biodynamic practices in the vineyard in 1998 and were finally certified for all their 35 hectares in 2005. So they're certified by an organisation called Demeter for their biodynamic practices, and they're certified by Biodivin for their organic viticulture. Their philosophy, and forgive me, I've mentioned this before, but I think it's a nice, simple approach for making quality wines, is to rely on three inputs, a tripod they call it, to have good vineyards, to have old vines, and to keep yields low. And that, along with the organic practices, is their approach, their philosophy. In the vineyard, as I say, organics and biodynamics are practiced. In the winery, the approach is quite low intervention where possible. Everything is pressed using a pneumatic press, pretty normal, but it's a gentle pressing. Settling, moving juice and wine by gravity. Fermentation and aging takes place in large old oak foudre. Aging goes on for about 8 or 9 months. Fermentation all takes place using the natural yeasts that are present either on the grapes as they go into the winery, or actually in the winery already starting to commence fermentations. The principal treatment they use is just a light addition of SO2 to enable the wines to be shipped worldwide and to enable them to age. So they don't eschew sulfur. They're happy to use a small amount of sulfur dioxide, but a regulated amount. So let's have a look at the wine, shall we? So the Grand Cru Gewurztraminer. So this is a wine you'd expect to be able to age. It's got quite a nice intensity. It's a medium yellow colour. It's not a particularly bright yellow. It's more sort of strawish yellow. But you know, there's the colour has some presence there, even though it's not powerful, if that makes any sense. Swirling the wine, we don't particularly get sort of heavy tears forming. It's 13.5% alcohol, but at the same time, I think there's some sweetness. Oh, yes, there you go. You've got some legs starting to fall on the glass there. And that's possibly as much to do with the sweetness as the alcohol, because I'm expecting this will have a few grams per litre of sugar. The aromas are rich, quite hedonistic, and you might almost sort of say slightly sickly, to be honest. There's a real sort of intense rose petal and Turkish delight sort of note. There's Turkish delight is rose petal, of course, but it's sort of a sweeter, richer note. So I suppose there are also some slightly honeyed notes. There's notes of honeysuckle, sweetness of floral perfume, lily of the valley, that sort of quite intense, slightly overwhelming aroma there. And on the palate. The wine has a medium sweetness, I should imagine that might be sort of 50, 60, 70 grams of sugar. It's not a fully sweet wine. And actually, on the attack, that's beautifully bound in with the floral aromas. You know, it's a very clean sweetness. When you stop fermentation, you end up with a very clean sugar, because it's fructose sugar that it gives that sort of slightly more crisp, better defined sweetness. Towards the end, the oily notes and the slightly sort of lily of the valley, sickly, sweet, and quite intense honeysuckle notes towards the end. Those honey notes, and it's leaving the wine just a little bit fat, to be honest. I assume that the fruit will open out, and that will sort of help to bring that in balance, because this is still a relatively young wine. I'd expect it to age for 2 or 3 years at least, possibly longer, and just gain a bit more richness and weight, which would make it very interesting as a food pairing wine. As far as food pairings are concerned for this sort of thing, people do suggest pairing Gewürztraminer with spicy Thai food and things like that. Yes, it's an interesting pairing, and I certainly wouldn't dissuade you from doing that. But I think bear in mind also that to really show the beautiful aromas and flavours that you have here, actually quite a nice simple backdrop, sort of goat's cheese and that sort of thing works really well with this as well. So and that will show off the wine's character more than complementing it. Just in terms of the finish, the alcohol doesn't seem particularly high. It's being balanced, I suppose, by a weight of fruit and a level of sugar that's stopping it from seeming hot. There's not a particularly high acidity, so the wine is not sort of finishing particularly fresh. There's still that notes of honeysuckle, honey, lilies, etc. on the back palate, and those flavours are lasting quite well, but they're not massively focused currently. I suspect with a little bit of age they might they might come into focus a bit better. But yeah, a very interesting wine. So that is Domaine Weinbach's Furstentum Alsace Grand Cru Gewurztraminer from 2020. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Do please feel free to follow our channel, do like and share, but do make sure you join us again. Bye now.